Hello, and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich, and today I am honored to have Kass Martin with me. And she is a fitness instructor, a life coach. She's growing in popularity on social media, so we'll call her an influencer. And she is known as the face of Zumba. So, Kass, thank you so much for being on today.
I can always give myself a round of applause, just in case. I'm happy to be here and real honored that you're having me here. And I love sharing my story with other people because I feel that if I'm one thing, I'm relatable. And so I like to fly with that.
Absolutely. So to kick off your story, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight the fact that your mom growing up was a fitness instructor.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about just growing up in a household where, mom's a fitness instructor. I'm sure she tried to encourage some fitness or some exercise in the house as well.
Oddly enough, my mom still is teaching fitness, and my dad, his expertise was he did communication and conflict resolution workshops for Salt Lake City, and was a mediator. So as much as you try and fight that you are becoming your parents, you become your parents. I mean, it's just like I woke up one day and I'm like, I'm actually living both of my parents' career, but in like my own way. As much as I tried to resist it, it was impossible, I guess. It's interesting because I never wanted to be a fitness instructor.
Yeah.
Because my mom was a fitness instructor.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, my mom had this grand idea that she was going to retire. And so I have a sister who is 6 years older than me, and she's always the one that I'm with. And we do a bunch of stuff together with work and with fun. And my mom had worked on her like an additional 6 years. And she's like, Mom, give it up. And I was like, Mom, give it up. But she knew something about fitness that I didn't. And what I was so caught up on, and especially at that age, was I was so insecure. And, it's interesting because sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, was I so insecure or did I not have confidence? Because I think that they're two different things.
Yeah.
And so I feel that I looked at her and I thought, well, why would anybody want me to be teaching the class? I'm no expert. I don't know what I'm doing. And she knew that what you get from teaching a group fitness class, what you get from any group of people, is connection, is a social life, is chances to create confidence within. And all of those are what I was lacking at that time. So I finally gave in. Yeah. And I just said, okay, here we go. Like, I can't be the worst instructor that they've ever had. I most certainly am not going to be the best, but I'm just going to go for it. And lucky that the gym owner actually paid for my training. Otherwise, I don't think I would have done it. I think I still would have been here, 14 years later, wondering what I'm going to do with my life.
Absolutely. So I want to rewind to one moment prior to this, and then we'll jump right back. Yep. So I think it's high school, and we oversleep soccer tryouts.
Yep.
So talk about the intro into dancing, because that's important in Zumba.
Yeah. So intro into dancing was a complete failure upon failure upon failure. That's what led me to dancing. So growing up, we didn't have any money for dance. I actually loved dance at a very young age.
Yeah.
And my other interests were gymnastics and soccer. So that's what I did. And those were lessons that we could afford. And come, freshman year of high school, what's funny is that freshman and sophomore, my cousin just reminded me of this, that we were like, okay, this is a year, we're going to try out. And we just slept through. Like I didn't have an ounce of ambition. Yeah. So this is what happened was I had tried out for cheer and I didn't make the team. So the way that my high school did it was half talent and 50% of the tryout was teacher reports.
Ah, okay.
And I was the farthest thing from a teacher's pet. I was kind of a smart ass, and I would be always talking in class. And I had at that time a little bit of a defiance with authority.
Yeah.
I was kind of figuring out who I was, and I was going through a lot of hardship within my home. And so I just kind of resisted that. And so that showed in my scholastics. And when I didn't make the team, because I thought I was a shoo-in.
Yeah.
My sister was a cheerleader. My brother was a yell leader. I could tumble because I'd been doing gymnastics. And when I didn't make the team, it was at that moment that I accepted failure as something in my life. And my daughter, she comes up with these kind of witty questions, and she'll ask me, what's the biggest regret of your life?
Yeah.
And I can bring it back to that moment where I then separated myself from the group that got what they wanted. Right?
Yep.
And I think everybody has a moment like this. So all of a sudden there were two groups of people like me who wanted things in life who would never get them. And then the other people. And so I lowered my expectations from that moment so that the fall of failure wasn't so rough, and I'll tell this story and my husband's like, so what does this say about me, about our marriage? But
I got to see him before. You didn't settle.
I did not settle. If anything, he got tricked into there. It was like witchcraft into marrying me. But, there was something in that where my expectations were just low. And I thought, you know what? Like I fell in love with him the day I met him, truly.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, and I just don't know that I am capable. I don't know that I'm capable of being, and I even called off the wedding maybe a couple months before we got married. And my reasoning was, I'm a cursed person.
Wow.
I don't think you should ever marry me. Everybody who I'm genetically related to has been divorced. So like, what are you thinking? You're nuts. You don't want to marry me. So, it's interesting because there were moments up to that. And it sounds silly because you're so young. You're so young. Like I look at my kids are those same ages. And I'm thinking, you're going to accept failure now? Like you're a teenager. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that became my fallback. Was like, there's two groups of people, the people who get success, the people who get love, the people who get happiness, wealth, health, whatever it is. And then there's people like me.
Wow. So, man, we could probably spend our entire time on this. We could probably spend our entire time on unpacking this. But the question I guess I would have for you on that is, as you're making choices and you have that belief, there's a lot less risks that you take.
Yep.
And it probably leads to a lot less happiness, excitement. Versus today, I'm going to encourage everyone to go follow you on social media. I would say it's probably not further from the truth. So you're either a really good actor or actress, or you've learned something new. So what was it along the way that all of a sudden there was this change in mindset and a belief that that it doesn't necessarily mean one of two worlds, or I belong in the other world, right? However you change your mindset, how did that come about?
So I slept through tryouts. I didn't get the cheer team. So I decided to take a dance class, and I did a few years in high school. And then like little miss zero ambition, I didn't try out for the college team. And some girl quit the college team. And I get a phone call one night from a friend I know. And she's like, hey, can you join the team? Can you come tomorrow to dance? I'm like, sure. I wind up at 6 a.m. dancing for the college team. And something then kind of sparked, like, I like to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And then I got married and I started having kids, and I kind of missed that, yet I was afraid to know where to get it. And I would say that what was happening was that I was not in alignment with who I was meant to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can feel it. The feeling that I always describe it is like there was an uneasiness in my soul.
Yeah.
And that feels like you wake up every morning and you're like, okay, like I wasn't unhappy. I've got a great marriage. I got these 2 awesome kids, but I'm not living up to who I'm supposed to be.
It's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when my mom's like, hey, the owner of the gym's going to pay for the class and I think you need it. And I was the anti-working mom.
Yeah.
I thought like all my family's problems was because we didn't have enough money and then my mom wasn't in the home. My dad wasn't in the home. And, which none of those ended up being true, but those were my limiting beliefs growing up. And I had 2 of my kids and my daughter was really colicky. And I was like, crap, I thought that I was going to rock this motherhood thing.
Yeah.
And I can't control her. She's her own person. Wait a minute. So when I started teaching and I just said, screw it, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to see. And I had to shift and work on that mindset of maybe it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work out. Okay, well, then I'll just try because maybe it's going to work out. And it was the first time that I thought that I connected that like hard work directly pays off to like your success. Like the harder you work, the more people were going to be in my classes because the more connected I was going to be with them, the better I was going to be able to modify for them. So it was like one drop of sweat at a time where I just decided that if I'm going to get rid of this uneasiness and be in alignment with who I want to be, I got to be a yes girl.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like, I'm going to say yes to it all and figure it out later.
So I want to jump into that because something you talked about earlier was maybe a lack of ambition. And then there you made a decision that I'm going to give it my everything. And I think a lot of people, their fear is, but what happens if I give it my everything and it doesn't go well, right? Like, does that mean I'm a failure? And I think the problem is, how are you defining, did it go well, right?
Exactly.
If you define it as, well, I grew, I became a better person, I made relationships. There was 12 people in class. Yeah, I wanted there to be 50, but there was at least 12. Like 12 people think I'm good at this versus the person that says, well, my goal was 50. I didn't hit it. That was a failure.
Yep. So, you nailed it when you said you just have to like redefine what failure is.
Yeah.
Because failure feels far heavier when you are failing yourself.
Yeah.
That right there, always knowing in your heart that you want something, knowing in your heart that trying is better than always wondering if you would have.
Yeah.
So maybe I was okay with failing along the way because I knew that by saying yes to everything, something was going to work out. Yeah. And I remember having that conversation with my husband. I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something more. Yeah. And he's like, well, what does that even look like? And I'm like, I really have no idea. So I did everything. Brian's like, I'm coming home and there's like a tie-dye factory in my kitchen. And I'm like, I know, I'm tie-dyeing clothes now and selling tie-dye clothes. Like, this is what I'm doing to make money. And oddly enough, as you fail, you learn things.
Yeah.
And when you learn things about yourself, that actually builds confidence. So you get better at taking risks because you know that, well, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Well, the worst that can happen is I'm right back here and right here is great. But if I always wonder, that's going to be real heavy.
Absolutely. So something that I think would be interesting to have a little dialogue on is the idea of oftentimes you said there was an uneasiness in my soul, right?
Yep.
And so oftentimes when I think I found what that soul's calling is, we expect the path to be easy, right?
Yep.
We expect the doors to just all open up. And very rarely does that actually happen, right?
No.
And then people start questioning themselves, well, is this actually what I was supposed to be doing? Is this actually the thing that's filling me up? Or did I completely miss the signs, or am I misreading this situation? So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, sometimes that door is just meant to help us pivot to a
Yeah.
next door, right? Opposed to being like, no, you're completely wrong. Hey, how can I pivot this and try it a different way, or do something slightly different, but yet get to that same result?
Yeah, I think if you're expecting a home run every time, then it's going to be a swing and a miss. It's just not. That's not how life works.
Yep.
And you almost have to do some like reverse psychology on yourself. Like if this was my friend and they were coming to me and they're like, you know what? Like I was feeling like this was the right thing. And then now I'm just not sure. Sometimes it's the right thing to match the growth that you need to take to the next right thing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes because let's say you've been working really hard and you're good at something, you can then get that uneasiness in your soul right again.
Yeah.
Like if I thrive off of creativity and I thrive off of trying new things.
Yep.
So go figure. And so I noticed that feeling it's like laundry. Like it's not
Yeah.
something you're ever done with. It's just it shifts into something different. And so if I were to add up all like my quote unquote failures, like I've got a ton.
Yep.
And there's days where I'm like, you know what? I don't feel accomplished. I feel stuck. There
Mm.
were times during the pandemic that was a real shift in what I was used to doing. I built a career that did not jive with a global pandemic.
Right.
Right. So I felt that same uneasiness that it's like, okay, Kass, it's time to go to the drawing board. It's time to recreate. It's time to stretch yourself. And I remember this one time I was like kind of just talking out loud. And every time I have a problem, my husband's ears like just automatically go up like, problem? Is there a problem I can solve? He's a real like problem solver. It's like his natural instinct. And sometimes I'm like, listen, I'm not talking to you. I'm going to work this out. I'm talking to the air. Thank you
Yep.
so much for being here, but I got this. So I was saying, right now I'm like, I don't know if I'm feeling insecure, if I'm feeling uneasy, if I'm feeling unaccomplished, if I'm feeling frustrated. I'm not really quite sure what this feeling is.
Yeah.
And my husband says, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like growth. And I was like,
Mm.
you're giving me my own lesson because that's what I always teach. Like that uneasiness,
Yeah.
that's what growth feels like. You can't grow and expand and like bring your life to a new level without those feelings of, man, this is really hard.
Right.
But like I tell my kids, like life is about doing the hard things
Yeah.
willingly and
Mm.
with a smile, because like welcome to life. Welcome to
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
even
that's
know if I answered your question on that.
it doesn't matter. I've got like 19 more. So two questions I do want to dive in before we get back into the story is one, when you started finding purpose, or maybe, the, filling of the soul within, how did that transcend into the marriage? I feel like it can't have done bad things for it. I feel like,
No.
man, it must have been much more fulfilling for both sides than it was prior to.
So I will say that Brian Martin is a movable man. Like so we've done like a lot of shifting through our marriage. And there were
Yeah.
times where he was full on board managing everything for my career and also managing the home when I am traveling, 2 or 3 weekends a month.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that communication is huge.
Yeah.
And I could like talk and coach on communication till my life ended, because it can make all things possible.
Yes.
With the right communication. And so being that was my dad's expertise, I think that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And rather than him resisting and being like, well, no, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is what you're supposed to do, and this is like what we agreed on, it was more like, okay, well, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I actually didn't have the answers, but our answer was always, as long as we're okay, everything else will fall into place.
Yep.
And I always knew that if during my career, if he said, you know what, this doesn't work anymore, that first off, I would do a lot of shifting and a lot of changing, or I would just pivot and new career.
Yeah.
Because that is like definitely where my values are, is home and happiness and that foundation. And so that might have been an easier transition, because he always knew that he was number one. And the truth is, he was running the show. Like, I may have been on the plane and getting on the stage, but I didn't know where I was going or what I was eating for breakfast without him.
Yeah.
So in that, we have really tried to be a good support. And what I have learned is that through me finding confidence in me, I think that it allowed for us to both be like equally confident, and then we come together as like a stronger force. But there's no sense of like, I need to like control him or he needs to control me. Because when he's like, hey, I want to go do this really fun thing, I want to go razoring, or I want to go, timber sledding, or whatever the adventure is, I'm really happy for him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, absolutely, go do it. Because I have my things and he has his things. Where I didn't grow up with that example. I grew up with the example of, if you have your own thing, it's just laced with resentment.
Yep.
So when you can come together and you're like, we're both strong people. My dad would say, you want to marry somebody with a full love bucket. And you need to have a full love bucket. Do not expect that you can fill anybody's. And do not expect for yours to be filled by anybody. That is nobody's job.
Yes.
And so that give and take allowed for us to fill our own.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And
absolutely.
And I always, like, we always checked in with each other, because I did worry that he sacrificed a lot for me.
Yeah.
And so there were plenty of conversations where I'm like, is this still working? Like, not me and him, but is this dynamic of, we're on the way to the airport, and does this work still? Does this job work? And, he's like, and again, I think this goes back to our goals were aligned with our values. And our values were, we want a happy, healthy, thriving family where we can do great things together, fun things together as a family.
Yep.
How we get there, like, who really cares who does it? And in that, we were able to really support each other. And then in that, I also wanted to show up in a way that wasn't like the exhausted, overwhelmed wife. So it allowed for me to do a lot of work on me.
Yeah.
Because I want to show up. I didn't want to like all of a sudden become the career person and then have it dim my light, rather than allow for me to shine brighter, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense. That's great. So going back to the story, you're growing classes, you're doing well with it. And one day you see a sign that says Zumba Jammer.
Yep.
And you go and
Bill, you know your stuff. I'm so impressed.
I told you I did some research. And you go and you meet someone important, but there's also something happening inside your family around the same time. So talk a little bit about just the dynamics of you're at there, you're learning, and your dad's health.
Oh, yes. So, what's interesting is, so I became the yes girl. I didn't know what I was even applying for, honestly. And Brian's like, what is the job? And I'm like, I have really no idea. I have no idea, but I'm just going to go for it. And I think that is where, people say like what's meant to be will really be, or what's meant for you will always find a way. And I think it's really hard to allow for that.
Yeah.
But when you show up as you, it's a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Because you're not playing this game of like, man, if only I just not been so nervous.
Yeah.
If I'd not been so jittery, if I'd not been so insecure and worried if they were going to like me, maybe I would have had a better chance. But now my chance is blown.
Yeah.
So I kind of just thought, okay, if they want me, I'm going to show up as me. And if I'm not the thing that they're looking for, then at least I know that I was being authentic to me.
Yeah.
So I applied for this job and I have to get trained at Zumba convention. Now there are thousands of people, thousands. I'm blown away by I had only seen fitness classes at my gym. I'd never been to a convention in my life. I didn't even know what a convention was.
Yeah.
So I'm showing up and like, I didn't even move out of the house. So taking a flight, like all these things were very new to me and pretty scary.
Yeah.
So I'm checking into a hotel, doing things that like, I had to put my big girl pants on, really like believe in myself. So I show up and I do the training and I see that there's all the people who like run Zumba. They're walking around the convention.
Yeah.
And I got to meet, I really felt like the stars aligned. That was the only way that I could kind of like report back home. Like it was just the weirdest thing. Like I was meeting this person, and I met the CEO.
Yeah.
And but again, like I was at this training and there was at least over 200 people in this training. So I knew I was one of hundreds.
Yeah.
And I met him, but I still was really pleased to meet him. I was really, really honored to meet him. And I just thought, that's so cool. Like people, the amount of work it takes to create something like this.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I was very just excited to meet somebody who done something so spectacular. And I saw him in the hallway the next day and he remembered my name. And he said, Kass Martin, how you doing? And I was like, what? How did you do that? Like, that is crazy. There were so many of us. And I don't know if you've heard this story, but when I introduced myself, well, he said, well, you did give me an image. And instantly I remembered, I don't know why I did this, but I introduced myself as Kass Martin, like shake your ass with Kass, Martin, like Ricky Martin, which is very embarrassing to introduce yourself to a CEO of a company like that.
I love it.
However, it worked. And what happened then was, even though I don't know that he would have remembered my name, I don't know that I stood out all that much. Something in me, when he said my name, I'm not kidding you, it was like, I don't know why, it gave me permission to believe that I could do something in this company.
Wow.
That's the only way I could like put it into words, was like, oh my gosh. And at this convention, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to learn how this company was run. It was blowing my mind. I saw instructors who were teaching hundreds of people. Yeah. And I'm like, but how? How are they learning those skills? Where do I learn more? Because again, remember I'd come to that conclusion, like the harder I work, the more successful I'll be. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, how can I work even harder? How can I work even harder? And like the anti-working woman became really, really enthusiastic about that. And so I was really, really excited about all these things that were happening. And then they were doing a new DVD. And so I'm like, hey, who picks for people?
Yeah.
Like, who's in charge? Who's doing this stuff? This is crazy. So I don't know how, but I ended up getting an audition and I ended up getting that DVD job. And then they needed someone to go and like talk about Zumba on all these different television shows. I'd never done television before. I mean, I'd been like changing diapers and making food. That's what my expertise was. So, and in that, like you'd mentioned, like my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. And he will always be my hero. Like I am through and through, like I adore my mom. I'm just a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
And the dynamics of my family somewhat created that, where my dad was a single guy. My parents got divorced when I was really young. And I always worried that he was going to be lonely. Mm. And so I always protected him like I was daddy's little girl. And even my middle name is Celeste. And I was named, he said, because I came in the hardest time of his life. And I was like this celestial gift.
Yeah.
I really tried to live up to that. Yeah. So I was always just through and through. He was my hero and is my hero. And to get that diagnosis that the doctor is like, listen, we've cut out half of somebody's brain and the brain cancer came back. Like, it's not a matter of if it will come back, it's when it will come back. And I need you to understand that. Mm. And in that, just being so devastated, like that was the darkest. I didn't know that darkness in life like that exists.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll say, like, if you think that people have had an easy life, like, you need to get to know that person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because that is how life is. And the more that I share and I'm vulnerable about like hard things that have happened in my life, the more I realize, not that I'm nothing special, but that everybody is just that special to go through those type of life altering hardships.
Yeah.
And when I remember, he used to always drive me to the airport, and I'd go to his house. He'd drive me to the airport, and he was so proud about just his traveling daughter. And I was on television and I'm training people and teaching hundreds of people. And I'd say, Dad, did you see me? Did you see me on QVC or whatever it was? And he goes, yes. And I cried the whole time. He was so proud,
Yeah.
And when he died, I learned a great deal about myself. Some things I wasn't too proud of, and some things I was really proud of.
Yeah.
And I learned that I can be going through really, really hard times. And that, first off, that there are little miracles in every day. Mm. And this actually was advice from one of my friend's husbands, and his dad died of the same. It's called a GBM, which is a glioblastoma multiforme.
Okay.
You don't want to hear those words in a hospital. And he said that if you're looking, that there are miracles in every day. Mm.
Yeah.
That some are very, very small and some are very, very big. And so I, tried to become the seeker of good things and of happy things. Because to be honest, like I needed them for survival.
Yeah.
I needed them. And then I I proved to myself that even when I'm going through those hard things, like I can be going. I think that we're very programmed to think that like life is either good or bad. Either you're happy or you're sad. Either
Yeah.
you're successful or you're a failure.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, these can all coexist. Like you can be so sad and you can still find happiness.
Yeah.
And you can feel like a total success and have days where you feel like a complete failure.
Yeah.
And we don't have to choose. We can have both of them every day. It's just trying to maybe like shift the pie slice, of what we are looking for, because I will tell you that what you are looking for in life is exactly what you'll find.
Absolutely. Right? Well, and I think something that I would even say to that, and maybe a different like spin on, is instead of percentages of the pie, but even like how quickly you bounce back from that, right?
Yeah.
Like we've all had the day where it's like, my business is failing. And it's like, well, that's such a naive thought. Like you've been running a business for 6 years. It's not going to fail in a day, but it's just like one of those days where like seemingly everything that could go wrong will go wrong. And I think the difference for people is some people live in that for a week, a month, a year, and that derails where their momentum is. And other people say, that was a crappy day, but you know what? Today's a new day. What can I do? Where can I find those magical moments in today? And that helps them get back on track quicker.
It's almost the way that I describe it when I'm coaching clients is like hardships, negative thoughts, insecurities. Like I kind of look at it like you almost like you spill something.
Yeah.
And let's say it's like ice cream with something sticky or nail polish or something like awful. Now, either you can quickly clean it up. You got your tools, you can hurry, you can Google search it, you can quickly clean it up and find some sort of solution or some sort of rerouting, a detour, whatever it may be. Or you can let it bleed into other things. It's getting sticky. There's fingerprints on the wall. People are walking through it, your kids, your spouse, your friends. Yeah. And now it's like, now that's all you can see because it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things where the more goodness that you can kind of pour into your cup. Yeah. Right. Then it's almost like you have this like tool belt. And so when that spill happens or when that thing is broken or whatnot, like now you have more tools that you can at least stick a Band-Aid on it, repair it, or fix it all the way, mend it. So it is that bounce back. And I don't know where I read this, but there was a research study that showed how long, like on a neurological level, do hardships and really like awful things in life, how long do they actually affect you?
Wow. Yeah.
And they said that the max is 3 months. So now if you think about it, when you think about like a bankruptcy, or when you think about death, and when you think about you lose your job, you have a divorce. So physically, on a cellular level, after a certain point, it's just us telling that story. Wow. Which is like the good news and the bad news, It's like, well, that's really bad news because I've been suffering for years on things. Yeah. But that's also really good news because the only person who can clean it up is you anyway. So if you can say, you know what? And now I'm done. Yeah.
That's really good.
Sometimes it can be actually that simple. You can say, you know what? I'm done now with that. And so every time you get kind of like derailed and you can feel yourself being kind of pulled back to the old default mode. You can say, wait a minute. No, I'm done with that. Actually, I don't do that anymore.
Yes. That's so good. That's so good. So as your career continues to progress, like you said, you're selling on TV now as well as everything else. And you say, holy cow, I'm busy. I need a little bit of help. hey, my mom's been, ripping on my sister about this as well. Let's bring in the reinforcement. So
Yep.
was this met with any opposition, or was she like, well, gosh, Kass seems to be crushing it. I'd love to be, doing similar things as her.
What's funny is, so she's my older sister. But I always say, like, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. So there are certain things where I'm just like, no, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And sometimes you just need that nudge from the person that you trust to say, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think initially, I don't know if it was her really wanting to teach, or if she just wanted to be part of the fun of like the conventions. And so I was going to be, the first year I went to convention, I remember I was like front row in what they call a fitness concert. And it's the only time everybody's all together. And we're at this one class together, thousands of people. Yeah. And I wiggled my way up to front row. And I was just spellbound and awestruck by everything Zumba at this convention. And the next year I was asked to be in the fitness concert. I was asked to present my own sessions, and I was just blown away. Yeah. People are like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, I have no idea. I honestly I have no idea. So Emily really was like, I can't let this all happen and me not be there to witness it.
Yeah.
So he almost joined to be like a cheerleader of me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, Emily, like, you need to sub my classes. You can do this. Everybody is watching you. She's this stunning, very charismatic, energetic woman. She's beautiful. She's so nice. And I'm like, they're not watching me anyway. They're watching you. So you can do it. So it was she did it with much resistance. And then my substitute didn't show up. Like, I had somebody who was going to cover my class, and she calls me and she's like, hey, so Hetty didn't show up. And I'm like, what's the problem? Like, start teaching. What do you mean? It's fine. And she goes, no, I can't teach. And I go, yeah, you can. You really can. And she said, well, somebody else is here and they said that they'll teach it. And I said, absolutely not. Get on that stage. Do not let somebody take your opportunity. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You can do it. And from that moment, it's funny because she was like my publicist. Like, anywhere we went, she was telling people, oh, you got to go to her Zumba class. You got to go to Zumba class for years. Yeah. And she does the same thing with coaching. She's a life coach. Why are you got to sign up with her. You got to be working with her. What are you talking about? Anytime people have a single complaint. Yeah. Why aren't you working with her? She's a life coach, She is the ultimate cheerleader.
Yeah.
And so then it was really fun for us to share this together. And she really likes to say that she likes to be a good supporter. Like, she doesn't really like to be in charge.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind being in charge. I might not know really what I'm doing, but I'll still be in charge.
Yeah.
And if it, like, however, let the cookies crumble. I don't know what the saying is. However it is, I'm okay with it. So she's been teaching. So I've been teaching for almost 14 years. So she's probably coming up on almost 12 years. And it's been this amazing connection and experience of a lifetime for us, because my work has taken me all over the world.
Yeah.
And so then there's chances for us to go and do these amazing trips together, and to be able to share these experiences of just like being fun and being silly and not growing too old to do anything. Stick us in a costume, put a wig on us. If we're doing it for the fun of the class or doing it for the fun of the event, it just kept us feeling kind of like fun and vibrant. And for two sisters to do that together has been one of the greatest joys of my life.
That's so cool. So the last couple things, and then we'll get on with your day. But one is, you're the first person that I've ever met that has a character on a Wii game. You just are. You just are. You just are.
You know?
So talk a little bit about
Like,
how that comes to be.
so, that's just like one of those other things. It's like, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that. Never. So
That wasn't part of the
one
5-year plan.
yeah, definitely didn't see that coming. Never. What's funny is like I didn't even have a passport and I didn't want one. That was another one of those very like I was so afraid.
Yeah.
I remember calling Brian on that first international flight and being like, this might be the end.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. Do people die when they go on an international flight? I don't know. What if I never come back? What happens to the kids? What happens to you? So Zumba was coming out with a video game and I get the email that says, hey, would you like to be in a video game? Who would ever say no to that?
Right.
And I had zero idea what that meant, but it was really cool. We got to wear these like all over sensor outfits.
Yeah.
And they had these little like sensor balls all over head to toe, and they were really rigid.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of hard to move. And I'm like, oh man, this is making it a little bit more challenging. It also was, if you made any mistake, you had to start over.
Oh.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I gotta have this motto where it's like, you need to show up, shut up, and make people smile while you're there. That's kind of my work ethic motto.
Yeah.
Is like, show up, meaning be prepared, know your stuff.
Yeah.
Shut up. Don't get in anybody's way. You don't know how to work a camera. You don't know how to do these things. Let the professionals be the professionals. You do your job.
So.
And then try to uplift and make people smile where you are. So that was such a fun experience. And my husband and kids even came and got to see kind of the behind the scenes. And there's another video game, and they actually came out with their own technology for it, which was really, really neat.
Yeah.
So I just never in my wildest dreams thought you could play Kass. Like,
yeah.
From the person who never who just accepted failure as I'm now in the pot of, I don't get what I want in life and don't dream because you can't have that, to really feeling like, okay, well, if you feel like you're at a dead end, you just turn around and you make your new path.
Yeah.
It's been just wild. In fact, I have in front of me, I have this big wall of pictures.
Yeah.
And it's of people and moments and experiences and a lot of smiles. And it reminds me of why I continue to be that yes girl.
Yeah. That's so good. Kass, are there any other pivotal moments that stand out to you about, what's helped you get thus far in your journey? Obviously, there's still a lot left to go, but anything else that stands out?
Something that was a real pivotal moment for me was, so every year at these Zumba conventions, this is probably 7 years ago when this happened, they asked the presenters. So I've been presenting for 11 years. And so, after I've been doing it about 5 years, they say, okay, if you want to propose a new subject or a new class, and they were always rhythm specific, always music and movement specific, the new sessions at convention. And what I found was that you can work out for an hour, but to really heal and have the life that you really, really wake up excited about, that's what you do with the other hours. So after conventions, you think that people come up and be like, oh, I love the way your hips move, or I love the way you do that dance, and what they really wanted to know was, how do I gain more confidence?
Yeah.
I'm really struggling in my relationships. How do I balance? Let me tell you, the balance of motherhood and career. That's something that a lot of women get stuck on.
Right.
And it's something that I continually work on myself. Like I was saying, it's like the laundry, and you got to counterbalance that. But I realized that what they really wanted from me was how to instill some of those qualities in them of self-belief, getting rid of limiting beliefs, how to like set goals, find yourself. What I just get out of a rut, get unstuck,
Yeah.
and get rid of that uneasiness in your soul. So, being that my dad was in the personal development industry, I looked up a bunch of his stuff and I started studying his work, and he'd already passed away by this time.
Yeah.
And he used to always say, now every Sunday he would come down from Salt Lake and we'd have a lesson. And sometimes they were on things like, like church or spirituality. And then a lot of times they were on communication, connection,
Yeah.
conflict resolution, self-belief, saving money, whatever it
Yeah.
was, like more life skills.
Yeah.
And so I started to really dive into not only his work, because he would say, you have to keep these papers. I'm not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Dad, that's so morbid. Come on, because he's young.
Right.
He died at 64. It's really young.
That is. Yeah.
So I then looked up all those papers and I started to develop personal development programs,
Yep.
like sessions at convention, because I realized that people, they need that as well. And so
Right.
and when you were talking about like, did I know in the moment? I knew then that it wasn't even like shifting or pivoting. It was like I was expanding.
Yeah.
And I was now doing a lot of healing on myself.
Yep.
And in that, I mean, like, why do I think that? That's
right.
Because thoughts create your emotions create your actions. So if you're not getting curious about what you're thinking, then your thoughts are just on repeat, and that's why you're stuck. You're literally like a broken record.
Yep.
So in that, then I really became like, I never thought that I would love doing anything as much as I love being on a big stage.
Yeah.
And I love this stuff.
Yeah.
I love talking about kind of like the meat of life. And that's what led me into personal development, having my own company with personal development, going back to school, getting my coaching certifications, and then doing group and doing one-on-one coaching where I can really get like, let's really get you unstuck, because as a group, I couldn't like facilitate that as well.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the time like my two worlds kind of collided, and I truly became my parents was right then and there. But, I think that everybody has that thing that everybody's so unique.
Yeah.
And like, if you're doing things different, then you're doing it right. Like, you shouldn't be doing things like anybody else, because you're not anybody else, not the people that you were raised in the same household, the people that you're married to, your best friends, your neighbors. So if you feel like, man, this is scary because I don't know anyone who's really done it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're doing it right, because you have to do it. You truly have to do it your own way. I mean, think about it. Like, you have an amazing podcast. You've talked with amazing people, and you know that not only have all these people that you talk to had to figure it out on their own unique way.
Right.
But you yourself have had to figure it out on your own unique way. There's no like user manual for human nature.
Yeah.
It's something that we all have to explore individually. And so when it feels hard, it's those moments of growth. When it feels strange, that's when you're coming up on something great. And if it's not as great as you thought, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you take that with you. Like, you're never starting from ground zero. That doesn't ever exist.
Yep.
It never exists. Oh, I'm starting over. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Even people when, like the yo-yo dieters are always like, oh, well, I used to be this way. Now I'm this way. And now I'm back to this way. And it's like, but you're never starting over. You're never the same person.
Yep.
Never. Even like you and I are different from today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different people. So it's never too late. You're never too old, young, fat, brown hair, blonde hair, red hair. You're never too anything.
Yep.
You can just do it now, like one foot in front of the other. The body will follow. Just get one foot in front of the other.
I love it. And on that note, Kass, I have appreciated your story and your time and just sharing those pivotal moments. And I can't wait to record this again in like 3 years. Who knows how many new video games and TV shows you're going to. We didn't even get to talk about The Biggest Loser. I mean, you've been on everything, but.
Right. Well, anytime you want me back, I will be back here. We got a million stories just like that.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You are a delight, so positive. Your energy is very, very contagious, and you're doing really amazing things. And so it's an honor to be on your podcast and speaking to you today.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.